There you are, back in the wee dark library, dripping rainwater on my floor and looking like you've just come in from the woods. Which, to be fair, is where half the trouble starts in these stories. Come inside, close the door, quickly, you never know who might be following you. I'm your wee dark librarian, collector of impossible tales, finder of strange creatures, and someone who absolutely will not follow a fairy into the woods. Again. Tonight, we're wandering into one of the oldest parts of folklore, older than Christianity here, older than the written word in Scotland, and older than the first stones that were laid at the circles. The Fae. Not the cute kind, not the glitter-covered kind, the unpredictable, beautiful, terrifying neighbours who live among us, whether we acknowledge them or not. Tonight we'll be exploring the ancient rules of dealing with the Fae, why you never say thank you, fairy bargains and how people got trapped in them, river Fae, forest Fae, and the spirits in between, real stories from Scottish tradition, and the tools that people used for protection or survival. So, get yourself comfortable, don't take anything that you didn't bring with you, and if something taps the window, well, just pretend that you didn't hear it. Let's begin. The Fae aren't wee Tinkerbells floating about with glitter. They are ancient, powerful, unpredictable beings. Older than churches, older than kings, older than written records. In Scottish lore, the Fae were nature spirits, guardians of wild places, tricksters, shapeshifters, beings who lived beside humanity but not with us. They had their own customs, their own morality, their own courts, their own grudges, and their own rules. Rules that you were expected to honour, even if you didn't know them. They were neighbours, dangerous neighbours, powerful neighbours, and absolutely unpredictable neighbours. People believed that they lived in green mounds, hollow hills, river banks, deep woods, ancient trees, liminal edges where two worlds meet, and anywhere the wind suddenly changed direction. At night, whole fairy courts were said to ride across the land. A shimmering procession of lights, hooves, shadows, and music. And if you ever saw it, you laid down, you stayed quiet, and you prayed that they didn't notice you. They weren't good, they weren't evil, they were other. Old people would say the good folk are just folk, folk with too much power and too little patience. They could help you, they could ruin you, or they could change your entire life because they were bored on a Tuesday. Right, so, the rule you're probably here for. Why can't you say thank you to a Fae? Saying thank you seems harmless to us, but in older belief systems, thank you wasn't gratitude. It meant I acknowledge a debt. I owe you. I am bound to you. Gratitude was a binding, a thread connecting your luck, your time, and even your name to them. And the Fae, they loved binding people. They absolutely lived for it. So if a Fae ever helped you across a stream, found something you dropped, or prevented you from getting lost, you never said thank you. Instead you said, good neighbours. You're kindly come. Good fortune to you. Or, I see your kindness. But never the T word. Anything polite without turning yourself into their favourite wee servant. The idea was simple. Gratitude creates a tie. Tie creates obligation. Obligation creates ownership. And the Fae, they never let go. So, you heard a wee hint of this one earlier, but here's the longer tale. A young girl was walking home at dusk when she realised that she had taken a wrong turn in the woods. The trees didn't look right, the path kept shifting, and her lantern flickered, even though there was no wind. She felt something watching. Just as she panicked, a figure appeared. A young man, pale as moonlight, dressed in green woven threads that shimmered like water. He smiled and said, "You're far from home. Let me guide you." He led her through twisting paths, past stones that she swore hadn't been there before, until finally she recognised her village lights. She turned to him and said the one thing that you shouldn't. Thank you. His face changed. Still smiling, but wrong. Too sharp. Too hungry. Ah, he whispered. So you do owe me? She ran, flew through the door of her house, shaking, and her mother put her to bed. But in the morning, she woke up without a voice, with memories missing. And when she walked outside, her shadow didn't move quite in time with her steps. She never stepped into the woods alone again. Now, if you take nothing else from tonight's lesson, take the rules. Because the Fae have rules the way that cats have opinions. Intense, dramatic, and they'll ruin your life if you ignore them. Here are the main ones. Don't accept gifts. Fairies don't give freebies. Every gift has a catch. A pebble becomes a pact. A flower becomes a claim. A drink becomes a lifelong arrangement. Just say no. Don't eat fairy food. One bite and you're done. Either you stay with them forever, or human food tastes like damp cardboard for the rest of your life. Don't step into a fairy ring. You'll vanish, dance for 300 years, and come back older than your mortgage debt. Don't give your name. Names were power. If they owned it, they owned you. Don't whistle at night. In some places it summoned them. In others, it insulted them. Either way, it's a bad idea. Never praise their beauty. Sounds nice, but the Fae hate being observed. Call them beautiful, and they think that you're plotting. Do not compliment their children. They'll take it as an invitation. Do not try to bargain cleverly. They've been doing this for thousands of years. You ain't winning. And never follow singing. It's not a free concert, it's a trap. The Fae weren't one big happy family. They were split into two courts. There was the Seelie court. They weren't friendly, just less murderous. They would give warnings, reward respect, punish rude behaviour, and occasionally help travellers. And then there was the Unseelie court. These guys were chaotic. They had no chill. They would chase people in the dark for fun. They delighted in mischief that turned fatal. They caused storms, fear, and disappearances, and they were more dangerous at winter's edge. Think of the Seelie court as the neighbours who would tell you that your bin had just blown over, and the Unseelie court were the neighbours who had just blown it over just so they could watch. One of Scotland's biggest Fae legends is the story of Thomas the Rhymer. Thomas was a poet, a dreamer, a wanderer, someone who probably annoyed everyone by speaking in riddles. One spring day, he was resting under the Eildon tree when a woman appeared on a white horse. She was breathtaking, but not human. Her clothes shimmered like moonlight on the water. Her eyes were bright and sharp. Thomas bowed and said she must be the Queen of Heaven. She frowned. No, Thomas. I'm the Queen of Elfland, and you've named me wrong, so now you must serve me for 7 years. Before he could even gasp, she pulled him onto the horse and they rode into the other world. A place with no sun, no moon, just glowing twilight. He stayed there for years, dancing, feasting, wandering strange halls, learning music that no human had ever heard. When she finally returned him to the mortal world, she placed her hand over his lips and said, "Thomas, you will speak only truth now. Never again can you lie." And he couldn't. Every prophecy that he made came true, so accurately that people feared him. Some say that he never died, that one night the Queen called him back and he rode into the hell again, never to return. One of the most frightening beliefs in Scotland was the fear of changelings. When the Fae stole a human child and left one of their own behind. The changeling would cry constantly, dislike iron, refuse human food, seem wise beyond their age, or sit silently staring as if it understood too much. Parents were told to protect their babies with iron scissors kept open beneath the cradle, a piece of bread tucked into blankets, rowan wood pinned to clothing, or singing certain lullabies that the fae hated. Some changeling tales were heartbreaking, people desperately trying to explain illness, disability, or difference. Others were terrifying, like the story of a woman who placed her silent, staring child near the fire and whispered, "If you're mine, stay quiet. If you're not, you'll scream." And the thing in the cradle? It laughed. Fairy food is famous for a reason. If you eat it, even one bite, then you risk staying in their world forever, forgetting your human life, or being unable to eat human food ever again. The food was described as glowing, sweet, rich, hypnotic, and irresistible. But the moment that a human swallowed it, that glamour dropped. Bread became dust, fruit became leaves, and feasts became empty plates. The belief wasn't really about food, it was about temptation. Don't take what's not meant for you. Don't trust the beautiful thing handed to you by a stranger. And for the love of all things holy, don't drink anything sparkling in the woods. Scotland is full of land and water spirits. Not as dramatic as kelpies, not as romantic as selkies, but far older. River maidens. Often beautiful, often kind, but only if respected. If you break your promise to one, the river rises. Nixies. Shapeshifters with green hair and drifting movements. They lure rude travellers into deep pools, but they spare children and kind strangers. Gilly-doo. A small, wild forest spirit dressed in leaves. Shy, gentle, terrified of adults, loves children, and could vanish like mist. Brown men of the moors, guardians of wild places. They hated hunters who took too much, but they protected those who would walk with respect. Now here's a wee story. A young woman once fell into a river during a storm. The water pulled her under, but instead of drowning, she found herself held by a glowing woman with hair like drifting reeds. The river maiden whispered, "Your kindness has been noticed." Turns out, the girl had always tended the riverbank, leaving bread for birds and clearing nettles with care. The spirit carried her to a shallow place and let her go. Every year after, the river never flooded her home, even when every other house nearby stood knee-deep in water. A quiet blessing from a quiet spirit. Some river fae were a different breed entirely. Not as vicious as kelpies, but not gentle either. They nudged travellers away from danger, or toward it, depending on how the wind blew. They could appear as dripping women, as silver fish with human eyes, or as shadows moving beneath the surface. People believed that they controlled crossings, drownings, storms, and the secrets of the riverbed. Not all fae lived in forests and hills. Some lived in your home. Brownies. Small shaggy-haired household fae who helped with chores at night. They would mend tools, sweep floors, tend animals, but they never wanted a thanks. They just wanted respect, warmth, and a wee bit of cream or bread left out. If you gave them clothes, they would vanish forever. If you insulted them, your house would go very wrong. Gruagachs. Farm spirits who cared for cattle. They protected herds, but only if treated kindly. The Glashtig. A half-fae, half-goat woman who helped to milk the cows. Unless offended, in which case she would sour every drop. People treated these beings like powerful neighbours. Quiet, respected, and absolutely never thanked. The fae didn't just live quietly. Sometimes they rode in great processions. A thunder of hooves, a blur of lights, a wind that shook every tree. This was known as the Wild Hunt, led by the Unseelie court. If you heard it, you hid. If you saw it, you lay down, face down, and didn't move an inch. People said that the hunt swept up anyone caught in its path. Humans, spirits, animals, even wandering souls. Some were returned days later, confused. Others, they never came back. A fae bargain always sounds harmless. We'll help you. We'll bless your home. We'll protect your cattle. We only ask one wee thing. But that wee thing is never actually wee. Sometimes it's your voice, your firstborn, a year of your life, an unnamed favour, or a promise that you think doesn't matter until they come back to collect it. The good thing is, people weren't helpless. They protected themselves. They used things like iron. Faes absolutely hated iron. Bread and salt offered at thresholds. Stitched clothing to confuse spirits. Rowan branches, which were hung above the doors. A clean hearth, because fire was sacred. Turning clothes inside out for breaking enchantments. And blessed water, especially from specific rivers. These weren't spells, they were survival tools. If you lived beside the other world, you needed all of the help that you could get. Now, the Fae weren't villains, they were explanations. When a child vanished, when someone walked into the night and never came home, when a person changed suddenly, people said that the Fae took them. They were how people explained missing travellers, babies born ill, sudden storms, strange lights, the feeling of being watched in the woods, grief, mystery, and loss. The rules gave people control, a way to feel safe in a world full of danger. Iron over doorways, bread in pockets, milk left on stones, no whistling at night. It was grief wrapped in a story. A way to make sense of the senseless. A way to understand a world that felt unpredictable and so cruel. And that, my friend, is the truth behind the Fae. Beautiful, dangerous, unpredictable, and absolutely not the kind of neighbour that you want to be borrowing sugar from. Thank you for joining me tonight in the Wee Dark Library. Next time, we're opening another door. Cursed objects and haunted curiosities. The things that you should never pick up, no matter how shiny they look. Until then, keep your iron close, keep your name to yourself, and if someone offers you food in the forest, walk away, quickly. Good night.